Welcome to Prime Life. We call it Retirement 2.0. Leave each episode with tips and new ideas to help you navigate retirement in our new age. It's your time. Make it count.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical, investment, or financial advice. We do not sponsor or endorse any of the individuals, companies, products, or services featured on this podcast. Any statements or opinions expressed are of the individual who makes them. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Prime Life Podcast. Mary, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking, Joseph. How are you?
I am great. As you know, things are going well in life, so no reason to be upset about anything.
That's the positive mindset I love.
After some of the conversations we've had over the last few days with different guests, keep a positive mental outlook. So yeah. Taking some of the advice we've heard and put it into practice.
Yeah. And today we have a really amazing guest. So I'm very excited to introduce him. And I can say this before I give the introduction, that I've known this individual not super well, but I've admired his career trajectory and have really leaned in to listen to what he's had to say about various topics. So if you're ready,
I read his bio, and I just want to make sure it's actually him.
I think it is. I can verify that if that's okay. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Kartik Sakthivel. He's the global CIO of LIMRA and LOMA. He's a technology practitioner. He's been urging industry and workers within the industries to adopt and adapt to the massive disruption that is the hallmark of the early 21st century. He's also a TEDx speaker, and he's an author, 4 books. His latest, Byte Into AI, which provides business and technology professionals a basic overview into all they need to know about AI to thrive in this AI era. Kartik, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to.
Thank you for having me, Mary, Joseph. Pleasure being here with you folks on the Prime Life podcast. It's my first time, and hopefully it's not going to be my last time. And Joseph, I got to say, just pulling on the positivity thread, no one really hurt their eyesight by looking on the bright side of things, right? You always have to look on the bright side. There's always a hidden positive in every situation and circumstance. And Mary, I just love being on here. I do appreciate the opportunity to share my message. So, Kartik Sakthivel, Vice President, Global CIO for LIMRA and LOMA. I've been privileged to serve in my role for 8 years now. I'm coming to you live and in living color from the seacoast of New Hampshire, on the border of New Hampshire and Maine, where I have resided for almost 30 years. And I know, Joseph, you're saying, how's that possible? He looks like he's 12. But it is true. It's been 30 years. I like to tell people I have the best job in the world because I work with the best people in the world. LIMRA and LOMA has been around for well over 100 years in the nucleus of a global industry. So we have the opportunity and the honor of talking to really interesting people like yourselves, right? And making sure that we are getting our message out and delivering value.
So, we use some acronyms, LIMRA and LOMA. Are those company names, organization acronyms? Maybe we just clarify what that is for our listeners who may not know that before we get into the questions.
Oh, thank you, Joseph. Yeah, so great question. LIMRA and LOMA, I love talking about LIMRA and LOMA. We're the world's largest and oldest nonprofit trade association for financial services. We are focused on life insurance, annuities, and worksite benefits. So our members across the industry are carriers, life insurance companies, annuity providers, group and worksite companies, technology and solution providers as well. We operate in around 80 countries across the world. LIMRA has been around for about 110 years. LOMA's been around for 102 years. So between LIMRA and LOMA, that merged, the associations merged in 2007. We have over 200 years of industry institutional knowledge, right? So we do research by the industry for the industry. benchmarking, training, and professional development. And then we bring the industry together to mutualize the problem solving across our industry, amongst a plethora of other things that we do.
So obviously, life insurance and annuities is an important topic for many of our listeners. But what struck me as most interesting is insurance and annuity companies are not what you would think of as cutting edge technology companies. Typically, you mentioned 100-plus-year-old organizations, hard to change. So maybe let's just jump right into the deep end of the pool.
Yeah, good flat.
What's going on in the insurance industry at large with AI and technology, and how's that going to impact, or in a positive way, hopefully, consumers and buyers of these products?
Yeah, great question. So let's start with why, right? I'm going to shamelessly steal from Simon Sinek. If you think about the protection gap in these United States, there are 100 million, just about 102 million Americans, according to LIMRA research, right, that are uninsured or underinsured, right? And that protection gap is especially acute in communities of color. Now, my general principle is, regardless of where in the value chain you serve, if you are in this industry, you could be in underwriting, you could be in IT like myself, you could be executive, you could be a fresh start, a new entrant into a company. Everything that you do, right? We're not manufacturing widgets. Everything you do is helping your fellow citizens, right? Regardless of where in the 80 countries that we serve, you're helping your fellow citizens lead sound, financially protected lives, right? There is inherent nobility in that. I think our industry is a mature and established industry. I think our industry has also done a lot of work in the past 10, 15 years in investing in modernization of our technology to be able to serve and protect more Americans, right? At the end of the day, if you strip everything down, that's what it comes down to it. And Joseph, you are exactly right. No one's accused the insurance industry to be on the bleeding edge of technological innovation. But all of the investments that the industry has made in the past 10, 15 years with digital transformations, with capitalizing on the mountain, the treasure trove of data that we have, and now more recently on AI, right, has been pretty remarkable to bear witness to. And I think it's easy for us to get enraptured in the day-to-day grind and think about all of the mountains of technical debt and all the legacy systems and all the legacy processes that we have. But we should give our industry a ton of credit, right? At the end of the day, given what we have, we're doing a lot with what we have to be able to protect more Americans.
Before Mary jumps in, I would probably say, add to that, is a lot of big insurance companies invest in smaller startups to help
100%.
create these products because they know they're not going to do it themselves.
Yeah, 100%. Now, if you think about Nassau, right? If you think about the Hartford InsurTech Hub, InsurTech Hartford, all of these institutions, folks who give their time and devote their energy into fertilizing the landscape in the InsurTech community, such that community can then contribute into the industry ecosystem as well. It's pretty remarkable to bear witness to.
So for consumers, AI, some consumers, it still sounds a little scary. And if they think about AI as it relates to insurance and their financial services and their finances and whatnot, can you kind of break it down in small bite-sized pieces in terms of what AI is at the simplest level and what consumers should know and perhaps also not fear?
And we'll get that answer after a brief word from our commercial sponsors.
Nassau is always working harder to be your carrier of choice. We offer insurance products that can help you meet your retirement goals, such as protecting your savings, securing lifetime income, or paying for healthcare costs. We're dedicated to providing best-in-class service and are keeping things simple, and we'll have your back. We have around 400,000 policyholders and contract holders and have been doing this for a long time, 170 years, but we remain humble enough to always try to improve. For more information, visit nfg.com. Nassau insurance products are issued by Nassau Life and Annuity Company of Hartford, Connecticut, Nassau Life Insurance Company, East Greenbush, New York, or Nassau Life Insurance Company of Kansas, Overland Park, Kansas. Subsidiaries of Nassau Financial Group. Products are not available in all areas. policyholder counts are for all Nassau companies as of September 30th, 2022, and are subject to change.
Yeah, so I would strip away at the end of the day, whether you're part of the industry ecosystem or not, right? We're all consumers of technology, and implicitly, we're all going to be consumers of AI, right? So AI in any particular sector, whether it's insurance, financial services writ large, retail, AI is not new, right? We have been surrounded by AI all day, every day for the past many, many, many years, and might not have just realized it, right?
Right.
So Mary, every time you sit in your car and Google Maps knows exactly where you're going to go and how long it's going to take you to get there, that's a rudimentary form of AI at play. Every time we sit on a couch on a Friday evening and don't get up in front of Netflix until Sunday afternoon, because people like you also watch these 17 shows. I mean, come on, we all binge watched Tiger King during the pandemic, right?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
that is a rudimentary form of AI at play. Every time you unlock your iPhone using your face, every time you say, hey, SIRI or ALEXA, I don't want to trigger anyone's devices. Those are rudimentary forms of AI at play, and obviously with social media as well. So we have been surrounded by artificial intelligence all around us. Now, from a consumer perspective, I take a special pride in saying that not only are insurance companies, life insurance, annuities, worksite carriers looking to protect more American lives, but we operate with ethics at the forefront, right? So LIMRA, we did some research back in 2021, 22, don't quote me on the exact year, but we asked insurance companies about their use of AI in their processes. And this is before the generative AI revolution, ChatGPT revolution, right? And how they were using it. And consistently, 100% of them prioritized ethical issues over any methodological issues or performance issues of their AI model. So, what consumers need to be aware of today, insurance companies, by and large, are looking to leverage artificial intelligence to improve our internal operations, to streamline things, to automate things, to hopefully get some operational efficiencies and free up our own capacity. Look, if I, as an employee, can free up 10 to 20% of my capacity, if I don't have to author every email, and if I can think of myself as an editor and not as an author, I think that's a W, right? Imagine having 10% back in your day. I could invest in professional development. I could take LOMA education, which is our professional development program. That builds my industry institutional knowledge. That's something that AI is never going to be able to take away from me, right? So if you can think about AI as augmented intelligence and not artificial intelligence, right? I think that's a win for all of us.
I love that. I like what you just said. I'm going to write that down.
So lots of questions, lots of comments, and a very complex question coming your way.
Oh, sure.
So, the whole ethical piece, I think, is what people are afraid of. Like, how is it going to be used, unethically or to do harm? And I've heard a lot of people speak. I've gone to a lot of classes and events about AI, and someone once said this, and I'm paraphrasing, so it's not going to be perfect, but he said, just because AI could do something doesn't mean you should use AI to do it. If AI is going to cause harm in the process, and harm, define that as you wish, losing jobs, whatever, use that lens to look at the implementation of the AI solution. So I love the fact that you're putting ethics first. Now, the complicated question here. Insurance industry is a regulated industry. You just talked about the ethics. There's obviously a business need for these organizations to make a profit and money and provide for their policyholders. And you want to provide a benefit to the person buying the policy or the insured. How do you weigh all of that when you can say, hey, I can use AI to figure out that Josef may be able to get a better rate because he has a better lifestyle, healthy, blah, 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 but it doesn't fall within the regulation of how I can do underwriting, because now I'm treating Josef as a separate class, and that could be potentially a problem. So hopefully that's a clear question in some way, but
It is. So let me answer that in a few ways, right? So number one, I think our industry, by and large, not just leads with ethics, and I fundamentally believe our industry writ large, keeping ethics at the forefront it's not just driven by regulation and compliance with said regulation, right? Companies do the right things because they are the right things to do, period, end of story. And most of the implementations of AI, Joseph, in life insurance, in annuities, in worksite benefits, is intended to augment a human being, not to replace their expertise, not to replace their judgment, not to replace their ethics and their morals and their values, and definitely not to do end runs around corporate policies, right? So even when you think about whether it's underwriting, customer service, claims, IT, organizations are leveraging AI as a decision assist tool, putting humans in the center, human in the loop, as a critical cog in their implementation process. Now, look, if I am using AI to generate code, right, as a software developer, and organizations are leveraging AI to generate code, you still have a human in the loop implicitly, right? Because you need some level of integration with that. If you have an underwriter and if you have an AI system scan documents, right, and be able to put the right things in the right fields for you, that's a win, right? And those are the implementations. So, and from a regulatory point of view, obviously, state-based regulation, the NAIC, in partnership with the industry, has done a really good job with their model bulletin, right? And it can't be an easy thing to craft policy guidelines on something that is moving so quickly. So I have to give our industry as a collective, whether it's the carriers or the regulatory community, a ton of credit, right? And again, we're all consumers at the end of the day, um, and most companies are averse to taking on risk when you don't need to, right? And AI without that level of explainability and transparency can be risky. So insurance companies are well aware, and are definitely keeping the human in the center and the human in the loop. That should assuage concerns. Now, for me as a consumer, it assuages my concerns, right? As well. Um, Whether it's a traditional methodology of how we operate or whether we're using technology, and it doesn't have to be AI, it could be any technology, right? First, do no harm should be the gospel, the opening line for every technology, every new technological innovation that comes in. So, I'm not concerned about the appropriate level of rigor around the use of AI in our industry.
I would agree with you, Kartik, in terms of your answer. And you talked about human in the loop, which I love that. And also, right, the guardrails that the humans set up for AI. But if you're a consumer, again, we are all consumers, as you said, and it's absolutely right. But for individuals that are listening perhaps to this podcast and they think to themselves, I need to become more AI literate, because I think what happens, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but I know I use AI on a regular basis. Like you said, it's actually around all of us, whether we're aware of it or not, but I actually use it as a tool to help expedite some of the things that I need to get done. And of course, I'm checking things over depending on what it is, but it helps me. It's sort of like my assistant that I have, my imaginary assistant.
Yeah.
But as individuals are thinking, like, I want to become more AI literate, are there small steps that they can take without feeling overwhelmed?
100%. And look, a couple of things, Mary. I think you hit the nail on the head. AI literacy is going to be extremely important for all of us, regardless of what company, what industry you serve in. You might just be a consumer, right? And not worry about using it for your professional lives. Use it for your personal lives. You
Right.
can go to ChatGPT and ask it to create you a 3-day itinerary for a tour of California, right? And give it some parameters, and boom, it'll generate it for you in split seconds, right? And obviously, you need to use some discretion, right? You
Right.
need to be able to have that. Just because the GPS tells you to take a right off a cliff doesn't mean you go off a cliff, right? There's that human in the loop and the human judgment. But
Everyone else took the right turn.
everyone else take a right turn, right? They got to their destination much faster, probably not where they were looking to go, right? But again, that's the value proposition of having that human in the loop and our own human judgment, right? So AI literacy is going to be extremely important. I'll give a simple analogy, right? So in 1999, when the internet started exploding, right, everywhere, when email came about, we never were like, oh, this internet thing's never going to take off, right? what did people do? We figured it out. We figured out email. Remember, when you were in an office building, there were people walking around with mail cards, right? You had that little yellow envelope that you had to scratch off somebody's name, put your own name, and then people used to walk around, right? There was no such thing as instantaneous communication. And email transformed that. And can you imagine our lives without email? Some might argue it might be better, right? But can you imagine your life without email today? And same thing happened with the internet. Can you imagine life without? So
Yeah.
natural instinct for humanity is to always fear the unknown, fear technology, right? The human race opposed the creation of the fork in the 16th century. The fork, right? So we cannot be the 21st century Luddites. AI literacy is going to be very important. I'll give you, in professional sense, JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, smart guy, right? So every new employee at JP Morgan, once they're done with their new employee onboarding, has to go through a level of AI literacy training, right? And JP Morgan is not trying to make prompt engineers. They're not trying to create AI scientists. What they're teaching you is how to use the tools that are going to be the tools that are here to stay, right? This is your toolbox now. So I think some of the sources online, LinkedIn Learning is pretty great for, you need to be a little bit discerning on what you're consuming, right? You could get very technical very quickly, and you might not want to do that. But for a cursory level understanding, LinkedIn Learning is fantastic. If you're within our industry, LIMRA and LOMA, we have the Industry Advantage program, which has some courses on AI specific to our industry. Um, but then the most popular university on the planet, and obviously you need to use judgment, is the University of YouTube, right? So there are tons of YouTube curricula courses out there that give you a cursory, rudimentary understanding and just demystify AI a little bit. I I honestly don't believe that en masse. Look, if there are rote, repeatable operational tasks that you perform at work, they will be automated by AI, right? Why wouldn't you, right? You're freeing up your own capacity so you can think greater thoughts, right?
Absolutely.
But just think about the past 20 years, Joseph. Think about the past 20 years, Mary. It's what, 2025, not even 20 years, right? If I would have told you in 2007, Mary, that someday you're going to have a device called an Apple iPhone, and on this device you're going to have a game entirely made of birds and pigs, and that thing's going to be called Angry Birds, and in 2025, that Angry Birds game is going to be a 20 billion with a B dollar franchise, right? Between all the movies and merchandising, all these things, you would have had me institutionalized, right? Like, so just fast forward the next 15 years, we can't even imagine the industries, the byproduct industries, the cottage industries that are going to germinate across due to AI. We just can't. Unfathomable.
It's an interesting comment there. I think about this, my childhood. You think about what was on TV, the Jetsons and the futuristic shows. And okay, so we have self-driving cars to some extent. We don't have flying cars yet, but we had phones. All these things have come to fruition. But like, what is futuristic now that we're, like, to your point, like, we can't imagine it. It's almost so hard to realize. I loved your comment about the fork. What were they using? A spoon? It was too scary to go from a spoon
Oh
to a
yeah,
fork.
they were using a spoon, and turns out when the fork came about, it was a two-pronged. You can Google this, right? I'm not making this up.
Yeah, no, I was just curious.
It was a two-pronged fork, and people perceived it as an instrument of the devil, right? So obviously, 16th
So like
century, no Google to dispel those myths, right? The OG social media, and that apparently went viral, right?
so
Yeah.
so the spoon was safe and the fork was like dangerous. Got it.
Sainted.
Exactly. We could go down this AI conversation about insurance for a long time here, but I want to switch topics for a quick second. Well, maybe not completely switch, but talk about your book. I like the name, especially the spelling. You have a little fun with the spelling of the name. Computer Bytes, Byte Into AI. Tell us a little bit about the book, why you wrote it. We'll go from there.
Yeah, thank you. So, Byte Into AI is a derivative of my first AI book, DNAI. DNAI, I introduced a concept called the AIM framework, the AI management framework, which is a derivative of my PhD dissertation, right? I did not believe that industries, without some basal best practices as a bedrock, right? Um, can successfully accomplish AI at scale. You'll get some success with AI, especially with generative AI, AI agents, what have you. But to have long-term sustained success, kind of like back to basics, right? To because we've never been here before. There's no playbook for implementation of AI, right? There was no playbook for social media, and see how that went out, right? So this, in my opinion, DNAI was that playbook. So that AIM framework that I introduced 25 best practices for organizations to emulate. And it's a framework you can just apply turnkey within organizations, right? Regardless of industry, regardless of sector. But the preamble to that framework was an introduction into all aspects of AI, what AI is, the history of AI is not new, right? It's been around since the 1950s. The term was coined at Dartmouth in the 1950s. But obviously, we didn't have the computational capacity, the sheer horsepower to pull this off, right? At that point in time. So Byte Into AI is a derivative stripped off of the framework because people might not need to implement a framework. They just need to understand the basics. So it's basically a quick tour through AI. Quick in my terms, right? So quick is about 200 pages. Byte Into AI is 200 pages. DNAI is about 560 pages.
Can I load it into ChatGPT and get a summary? I'm just kidding.
I would prefer you not intellectual property. So that's the other.
I'm kidding.
I know joking. I know you're kidding, but it just reminded me for all of the listeners out there, right? Feel free not to load your corporate intellectual property into public ChatGPT. If your company has an approved set of tools internal to your organization that is private to your company, please do follow your company guidelines, right? Don't get in trouble.
No, that's a really good tip. I love that. I didn't want to cut you off. I didn't know if you wanted to say more about your book, which I think is amazing. What are some key takeaways for our listeners that you'd like to impart? So, like, if listening to this episode, what are a couple of key items that you really want people to hear today from your perspective?
Great question, Mary. So, number one, I think, look, we are entering the age of AI, right? AI today is the worst, most immature that it's ever going to be, right? So if you think about that for a second, think about how far we've come in the past 2 years. The age of AI is here. I believe ChatGPT triggered it, right? And simple reason why, because ChatGPT democratized artificial intelligence for Joe Public, right? 2 years ago, you would have had to be a data scientist or an AI modeler to start playing around with AI. And now it's accessible, easy to use, and by the way, it's free. If it's free, it's for me, right? And I think that's the catalyst for this age of AI. So the age of AI is here to stay, just like the internet was 25 years ago. So it's important for us to not shy away from it, but to actually double down with it. You can do lots of magical things with AI today, immediately, right? You can have it author your emails. It can have it create recipes for you. It can create, just tell it you've got like these ingredients in your pantry. It will create a recipe for you and tell you how to make it, right? So use the collective institutional knowledge of humanity the way these tools intend to be. Do not shy away from it in your personal lives or your professional lives. As long as you're doing it safely and effectively in your professional lives, knock yourselves out, right, within your corporate policy. Two, I think it's extremely important to be AI literate, right? The internet was kind of self-explanatory. You went to this website, .com, .org, .edu, what have you, right? You were off to the races. To get the most out of AI as an engine, to get the most out of generative AI specifically, right? AI is a pretty broad, sprawling field to study and not a monolith. You need to understand how to ask it the right questions to get the optimal responses, right? So definitely feel free if you want to be a data scientist, knock yourselves out, right? But just become AI literate. So you don't have to be fluent, just be literate. That should be good. And number three, I think it's very important for us to understand that AI is going to precipitate change, right? And everybody says they like change, but no one likes to change, right? Don't move my cheese. Debris is going to be everywhere. Debris. That's a Friday afternoon dad joke. No, okay. Thanks.
I love it.
But I think it's important for us to keep in mind change will be all around us, whether in our personal lives or in our professional lives, right? We couldn't have envisioned the entirety of the human knowledge in our pocket 20 years ago, right? So it's going to be a fun ride. Just enjoy it, right? Just make sure that you're not shying away from change, but actually leaning into it. I'll just give you folks a very simple example in terms of technological progress. 100 years ago, 1925, less than 40% of American households had access to electricity, right? Imagine doing anything. This podcast, we would be in a town square somewhere. I'd be a town crier, right? Doing this thing called a cast, right? Not a podcast. But you couldn't do anything without technology, right? Today. So that was only 100 years. So just keep in mind the next 100 years are going to be a fun ride as well. Might as well capitalize on it and make the most out of it.
I was going to build on one of your takeaways. Not only lean into it, but don't fight it, because the change is going to happen. So there are people that I know that will like just fight the change. This one, you have to just roll with the punches a little bit, learn it. Yeah. You said it earlier that, this would be the first of many. I have at least a dozen more questions I'd love to get to. I know Mary's going to say we don't have enough time, but I'd like to ask maybe one or two more. We'll see how that goes. Talk a little bit about AI and aging and where you see the implications. So we've had guests on the show, who have done some businesses in the sensor space or senior living and how they're using it in those facilities. Fall prevention. There's like all sorts of, and I'm using AI in the broader sense there because some of that is not necessarily specifically only AI. Where do you see it going and how do you see it helping people?
The opportunities for AI to truly help and transform healthcare, including the aging population, is tremendous, right? If you think about IoT devices, right? So you've seen many, many, many stories of people who've unfortunately gotten into a car crash, right? And the only way people have been notified is because their iPhone detected it, right? People, aging populace who have IoT devices today, right? Internet of Things, so Fitbit, Apple Watch, what have you. If your Apple Watch can detect that you're having an episode, right, a medical emergency, and automatically notify emergency medical professionals, I mean, think about the value proposition if you supercharge that with artificial intelligence, right? So being able to help you live a better, healthier lifestyle, being able to guide you in your day-to-day tasks, right? Look, I don't mean to sound fantastical. We're far, far away from the P1000 knocking on your door and asking for Sarah Connor, but there will be robotics that continue to grow, and robotics that get smarter because of AI, right? Think about just your rudimentary Roomba, right? Roomba robot, like just goes around, figures out your house. You've got robotic lawnmowers, empowered by AI that can sniff out your soil samples and then adjust. Like it just the opportunities for us to transform humanity, right, are remarkable. So again, if anything, when you think about an aging population, you're trying to delegate as many things as you can to tools and technology so you can enjoy your life, right? Or live a better lifestyle, have a better quality of life. I will say AI is just the next phase of an ongoing technological evolution of our species, right? And every technology, and sure, we've had some challenges with some technology. I would argue we've had challenges with social media. I would win that argument, right? But by and large, technology always improves the human quality of life. Period. End of story. Right.
I'm waiting for the wheel.
The wheel. Let's just reinvent it. Maybe AI can build us a better wheel.
By the way, you double shout out to you because you multiple pop culture references. Mary knows I love integrating some, the Sarah Connor thing. That's
absolutely awesome. I definitely picked up on that, and I really appreciate it. I also noticed that Joseph, you got in the Jetsons comment. So we had a trend where Joseph in every episode somehow found a way to integrate a Jetsons comment, but it's been a while for you.
Here's a Jetson comment back for you. So when I talked about robotics, right, Rosie could actually be reality, right? It might not be 10 years, could be 15, could be 20. But imagine that Roomba growing up, having limbs, right? Being able to help an aging population lift heavy things, right? There is video out there today. There's some company trying to build robots, right? And just with some simple instructions, here are 2 bags, put these groceries away. They know exactly what needs to be refrigerated and what needs to be kept out in the pantry, right? I mean, just that's the value proposition when you think about robotics and AI as just assistants, 24/7, 365.
So yeah, I think you're right. I mean, we're not at the Rosie level yet, but there are robots that sit in people's homes to talk to them to keep.
Yeah.
So there's a fighting loneliness,
Companionship, right?
right? And there's also AI in software to prevent fraud. So they know if it's a real call, fake call,
Yep.
things like that. So yeah, we're getting closer. That's why I always loved that show. Maybe because I like leading technology and trying to make change. But yeah, there's been a great conversation. Like I said, we can keep going.
I think really what that shows is we'll have to have Kartik come back on and talk a little bit more or a lot more, and we can take our conversation in a different direction. But I want to say one more thing, and that is I love that you brought up the benefits around healthcare and individuals that are maybe, aging in place and things like that, as Joseph also commented on, because I think that that's super important. And it just warms my heart to know that, and really that's like Prime Life Podcast, living longer, living better, longevity. And that's what we want for everyone. That's what we want for ourselves. And I just think that all of these technologies are really helping to expedite all of the things that we hope for, as it relates to, our cardiovascular system. I mean, we can go on and on about lots of things. One more thing I have to say, when you talked about a Roomba and you also talked about, lawnmowers and such, my husband said he read an article about an individual. He actually was in law school. He ended up leaving law school to create a lawn care company just using automated lawnmowers.
Yeah.
And the reason he thought about it was he was like, I was trying to study and the lawnmowers were so noisy. And I loved that he shared that. And I loved that example. I'm like, entrepreneurship, like, solving a problem. And here we are talking about lawnmowers that go on their own. I mean, you have to still kind of watch what's going on, but
yeah, you do need to watch what's going on, and it's offering people a choice, right? So me personally, oversharing, but I bought myself. I had a 20-year-old Craftsman lawn tractor. I love that device, right? 20 years old. It finally decided it was time for the lawn tractor. It went to a farm in upstate New York, but then I got myself a John Deere, right? I love it. I personally enjoy being out there cutting the lawn, right? I just do. Would I get a robotic lawnmower maybe in the next 25 years when, I feel like, yeah, you know what, I'm getting too old for this, right? But at least it's giving people a choice, right? And there's nothing preventing me from being out there partially doing a robotic lawn mow and then doing a weed whack or something to that effect, right, Mary? So I think it's just, again, technology is intended to improve our quality of life, not denigrate it.
No, I think that's great. And I love that you use the word choice. Like it gives us more choice, more options. So I love that. So we have a final question for all of our guests. And then when you can tell individuals how they can get a hold of you if they'd like to continue the conversation. So you're very accomplished. You're a TEDx speaker. You're an author, PhD, concentration in AI, sky's the limit. Why do you wake up every day and do what you do, Kartik? What is your why?
Thank you, Mary. My why is I want to help, right? Period, end of story. And if I can I ask myself, like, what can I do to help someone else today, right? And I derive a lot of satisfaction in that. It's a matter of pride for me that I was able to be of value to somebody else, which is why I think the opportunity that I have and the role that I serve is perfect for me because we are in the nucleus of an entire industry ecosystem, right? That's all what we're about, right? We're helping everybody else, agnostic to one firm or two firms. We want everybody to be successful, right? So I work with the best people. Anything and everything I've done has been inspired by them. I have the most exceptional leadership that one could have. And I like to tell people tongue in cheek that I would do what I do now, even if I wasn't getting paid for it, right? If I was independently wealthy, I would still do what I do because I enjoy it so much.
I'm sure your bosses would be happy to know that they don't have to pay you.
I have mentioned that to them. I'm like, why? They would be. My mortgage company, maybe not so much.
Exactly. Yeah. So
this has been great.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we're going to have Kartik back on. So if individuals want to get a hold of you, what's the best way? We'll put everything else in the show notes.
Oh, sure. I would try to be a Gen Zer and say smash that like button. But my LinkedIn is the best way to get in touch with me. My email is my first name, the first letter of my last name, at Comcast. Because this is a partially personal production, not necessarily a professional one, right? So, but LinkedIn is definitely the best way, and that's the only social that I have. So folks can get in touch with me there.
Thank you. Joseph, you want to bring us home?
Well, thank you, Kartik, Mary. Always great to do another show with you. To all our listeners, thank you for tuning in every week. And we look forward to next week, another great episode. Until then, share feedback, like us, share the podcast with your friends and family. And until next time, have a great week.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Remember to subscribe to the Prime Life Podcast anywhere you find podcasts. You can find all of our episodes, contact information, and more on our website, primelifepodcast.com. Stay connected with us. Follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.